Good morning. Welcome to our Minnehaha County Commission meeting for February 24th, 2026. Call the meeting to order and note for the record that we do have a quorum of commissioners present. Commissioner Blyenberg is absent today. Before we get started, quick reminder, silence your cell phones. And if you're going to speak for public comment for any of the items on the agenda at the end of the meeting, please sign in the corner over there. We need your name for public record. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, look for a motion to approve our agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Consent agenda. Our consent agenda is all of our, what I call routine business, bills to be paid, personnel actions, abatements, etc., all available, public record down in the auditor's office if anybody would like to peruse that. Anybody from the public like to comment on any item on our consent agenda? All right, Commission, anybody want to comment or pull any item off of our consent agenda?
I'd make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion a second, please call the roll.
Benega?
Aye.
Kipley?
Aye.
Heisey?
Aye.
Karski?
Aye, motion carries. Moving on to regular business. A public hearing and second reading of rezoning number 2602 to rezone the A1 Agricultural District to the C Commercial District, property legally described as Lot 3, Milstead Addition, Northeast Quarter, Southeast Quarter, Section 21, T101R, T101, and RW51, Wall Lake Township. Scott.
Thank you. Scott Anderson, Planning Director. This item is a rezoning item. It was heard by the Planning Commission at the January 26th meeting. It has been set for a public hearing today, and after the motion to set the hearing date, the applicant withdrew his request. So this is a public hearing, and I would, after the public hearing, just ask the County Commission to acknowledge the applicant's withdrawal of the rezoning request.
Right.
But there may be people here to say something.
So this is a public hearing and it was posted for notice. So even though it's being withdrawn from consideration, we won't vote on it other than to accept the withdrawal. We will take public comment. Anybody from the public want to comment on this agenda item? Commission, I'll turn it over to you.
Yes, a motion to acknowledge and effectuate the withdrawal. Second.
Motion and a second. Call the roll.
Kipley?
Aye.
Heisey?
Aye.
Benega?
Aye.
Karski?
Aye. Motion carries. Public hearing and second reading of rezoning number 2603 to rezone from the A1 Ag District to the Ransom Planned Development District, property legally described as Track B and Track C, Schrewer's Addition in Sverdrup Township. Scott Anderson.
Thank you. This is also a rezoning request. It's to rezone approximately 21.7 acres from A1 Agriculture District to the Ransom Planned Development District. This property is located approximately 1.5 miles east of the Midway Corner, which is at the intersection of the County Highway and Highway 115. The address is 47670 254th Street. This item was heard by the Planning Commission in January, and they were recommended approval. I'll give you a little bit of background. In addition, I have provided you the PowerPoint presentation, a proposed ordinance, and the minutes from those meetings. But a brief background of what is going on here. You may recall last year in October, there was a rezoning request to rezone a smaller portion of property to C Commercial. That was recommended for denial by the staff and the Planning Commission. That hearing is next week. It's been continued as a result of the working with the applicant and the property owners to maybe provide a better plan for that area, which incorporates a larger area, and also then addresses the existing single-family residence and how that could be handled so as not to have a long-term land use conflict, a conflict of land uses. So on the screen, you can see what is now proposed. It is a 21-acre parcel with 2 sub-districts. The one sub-area addresses how the eventual use of that single-family residence will occur. Within 9 years, it will need to be turned over into a from a residential commercial to a commercial use. So it has been approved by the Planning Commission. Today is the second reading and final adoption. Once should this be approved for the second reading and final adoption, the applicant would then be required to submit a final development plan. And that final development plan then would include things like a security plan, a landscaping plan, a lighting plan, perhaps a traffic study if needed to address if a turn lane was needed. Those are all things that I have been working with the applicant, letting him know that shortly within the next 6 months, a final development plan will need to be submitted to the Planning Commission for review. It will go over all of the issues that I just indicated. But at this point, the Planning Commission has recommended approval. I'd be glad to answer any questions that you have.
All right, before we go to questions, Scott, it's a public hearing, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. So we will take the proponent for the change and any testimony from the proponent at this time. So if anybody here wants to speak on that.
Hello, my name is Todd Ibis at 1600 West Wicklow in Sioux Falls. I am the controller for the company and just offer my knowledge for any questions. Thank you, Scott, and we also have counsel here.
Thank you, sir. Any other proponent testimony for the zoning change request?
Paul Cheddar at the Boyce Law Firm on behalf of the applicant, and I just want to highlight the process that Scott mentioned to you all of receiving the final plan development specifics that will go back before the Planning Commission in 6 months. All of the issues that were raised by members of the public last month at the Planning Commission meeting are issues that we intend to address. Scott has provided us with a list of about 10 items that will need to be part of the final development plan, and all of those requirements from signage to a potential traffic study to an engineer review of the existing buildings to potential septic system. All of those are things that my client is committed to performing in order to make this plan development rezone acceptable to the county. So appreciate Scott's willingness to be creative and flexible, and the Planning Commission's willingness to let us kind of go back to the drawing board and pivot from a commercial rezone to a plan development, because that gives us a lot of flexibility and frankly gives the county a lot more control over what happens at that site versus a commercial rezone. We can tell you it's going to be one thing, but once it's rezoned commercial, you kind of lose that control. So a plan development is a win-win for the applicant, for the neighbors, and for the county to make sure that land use is appropriate.
Thank you, Mr. Cheddar. Any other proponents? Okay, we'll take opponent testimony. Anybody here that is opposed to this rezoning request, now is your opportunity to address the commission.
Hi, my name is Jeff Schurz. My brother owns that property right there, and I was supposed to get it in inheritance, but that seems to have changed. Obviously, without your permission, Ball & Oil has already moved into that property. You saw all the tanks, you saw the trucks. He's already done things illegally for the last 2 years, and he just continues to do it. Sure, he's got a lawyer to stand behind him. I don't. It's just wrong. The whole idea of that property being commercial tank farm, which it will end up being, is wrong. I hope you all see that he's going right over your heads, doing whatever he wants to do. You know, money talks, I guess. But for a neighbor, I built that house. I was hoping to get that when my father has me as the owner of it in the will. It's all I'm saying is, with Vollen Oil and Bruce Vollen, why doesn't he do it right and get the right, area to put a tank farm at, not in the middle of the country where the highway is already getting soft. The neighbors are dead against it. They built their acreages out there only to increase in value, which they've done an excellent job of, and it's just going to go downhill with the tank farm, propane tanks. You saw all the equipment he's already got there. Their value is going to go downhill. I don't know. It seems like last time we were here talking to the last committee, we were kind of talking to the wall, but I just hope you kind of listen. I'm the only one, well, I got another neighbor here today, but I hope you listen to me and kind of respect the whole neighborhood situation in that area. And just do it right. Put it in a commercial property area that would be fine and there wouldn't be any issues with. But the way he's got it now, there are plenty of issues. Thank you for your time.
Any other opponents to this rezoning request?
My name is Terry Quam. I live 47631 254th, so I am west of the site, probably about 1,000 feet. I have some questions of hours of operations, speed limits, what it will do or what are going to do with the property for how it would look, who would oversee the surroundings, if the county's in charge of overseeing, or does the EPA come in? Because is there going to be oil tanks coming in, or, for their fuel stations, running diesel, ethanol, all that stuff is set up at his station down there on the highway. And does the owner need approval for future development? I guess I don't really quite understand, because this is a 9-year process. And where is the approval granted, and will the neighbors be notified for new development? Is he gonna put a gas station there? We really don't know. It's in our site. The neighbor next to him, I would be really opposed of, because it's almost right along the property line, except for a little pathway to get back to the field for the other shores, the farm. So there's a lot of questions for me in the future here, how it's going to be developed. Those are big propane tanks. Things can happen. The neighbors next door, if something did happen, it goes, the water lines, the spill, it's tiled going into Split Rock, which would go down into Mapleton by the golf course. So I just kind of like to see if there's going to be, big tanks set up out there. And eventually we will find out. So I'm just hoping you kind of take in that consideration too. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any other opponents? Okay, we'll give the proponent a chance to rebut or answer maybe any questions that were proposed.
Sure, I'll speak very briefly. Paul Cheddar on behalf of the applicant. We have got signed contracts between the applicant and the current owner of the acreage. There might be some family confusion as to who thought they were going to be inheriting it, but the record owner has signed a contract that obligates them to sell the property no later than 30/35 to Ransom LLC. This is a good example of what is happening in Minnehaha County. Things are growing, and you need to create opportunities for growth to happen. And as Volun Oil experiences being landlocked at their location a mile and a half west of this site, they need to find a way to expand and get the truck traffic away from the volume of traffic on the north-south road at the Midway intersection. And this is an opportunity to get the trucks away from that intersection to a location that has good sight lines. And that was endorsed by the Planning Commission and discussed by them last month. In terms of regulation, Volun Oil is regulated by state and federal agencies and will comply with all safety requirements. And other than that, I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have, but I think those are a couple of the issues that may have sparked questions in your mind.
Thank you. Any other rebuttal? Okay, Mr. Cheddar, thank you. I will turn it over to the commission for their questions and/or action.
Well, let me make a couple of comments. Planned developments are part of the reason why we have some flexibility in the county to make improvements with the growth of the community. We don't know all the details, obviously, of that planned development, but it does give us some opportunity to reconsider the first proposal. So I would be supportive of doing the planned development.
Mr. Chair, I have a question for Scott Anderson. Morning, Scott.
Morning.
Just kind of curious about some of the procedural things here. I believe this is our second reading of this, and the plan has not been released formally yet. Is there a timeline in place where we'll be able to see that plan and look at the conditions? Will we be approving that sometime within the immediate future?
So procedurally, typically how a plan development works is the framework for the plan development is approved, and then they will bring back a final development plan prior to work occurring. This, as you had heard, is a little bit different because we are sort of going back to correct a zoning violation. So some of that work has already occurred, and that's evident by the pictures. So, but I have given them 6 months to submit that final development plan. And as the legal counsel for the applicant indicated, I have also given them some very good direction on what I would like to see in that final development plan, which includes things like landscaping, a landscaping plan, a security plan, a lighting plan, an erosion and grading plan, signage, many items that need to be addressed. So they will submit that final development plan within 6 months. That goes to the Planning Commission for review. It comes to my office first, and then I review it and present a recommendation to the Planning Commission. And then once that final development plan is adopted, it allows them to start making those changes to the land uses and actively using the property.
Right. Now, there are obviously some safety concerns that some of the residents have brought up, and it was mentioned previously that it will be regulated by state and federal regulations, and I'm sure the county also plays a role ensuring that the conditions are met and.
Yes, so we ensure that the conditions are met of the final development plan and of the plan development. However, just for everyone's information, a lot of what is being talked about is addressed on a federal level. So when you have the storage and handling of those type of substances like propane or petroleum products, that's all regulated by the federal government and the state of South Dakota. And like you have to be able to capture so much if there's a spill. You have to have safety issues like fencing and lighting and so on. And so a lot of that is addressed federally. So I don't need to, and I can't over-regulate what the federal government is already requiring. So I have confidence in the fact that the federal government deals with lots of these across the country. They know how to handle, what they need for berms, for capturing any kind of spillage. They're the ones that that they make sure that the tanks are constructed in a manner that is safe. They regulate all of that. So it's not that I have to start creating conditions on how the tanks have to be for safety and the spacing and that's all addressed. So.
And then if I could just add on to that, one of the opponents, Mr. Terry Qualm, had brought up some concerns related to potential future development. Would it hypothetically be possible for it to turn into a gas station or some other commercial?
So in your packet, there is a list, there's an ordinance, and it identifies the approved uses for those sub-areas. So if that use is not addressed or not specifically identified in that list of approved uses within each of those sub-areas, the applicant cannot operate that use or cannot conduct that use unless they were to go through a plan development amendment. And if they amended their plan development, let's say they want to have some kind of a use that's not listed, they could come back, do a plan development amendment, which is basically starting the process all over again. We would send out hearing notices to the neighbors. We'd publish a notice in the paper, post a sign on the property. We'd go through the whole process again to determine whether that new use is appropriate for that plan development. So there is opportunity for the public to once again be involved and informed on what would happen out there.
And historically, is there, besides the ordinance not being followed in the past, has there been any ongoing complaints or issues that have arisen related to the use of the property, oil spills or traffic accidents, things of that nature?
So I have not received any complaints about oil spills, and I have not received any complaints about traffic. I guess those are the two. I haven't received any complaints other than it became aware to us that the use of the property had changed. It was no longer being used for agricultural uses, and that prompted the start of this to rectify the zoning.
And do we have a clear idea of how many tankers are going to be hosted on the property, and when they leave during the day, in the morning, come back in the evening? Just get a sense of the activity on the property.
That might be a question that's going to be better answered by the proponents or the applicant, because regulating business hours, they may have to come up, but regulating business hours on this type of use, it probably is not something that we would regulate, because you can have all kinds of unusual circumstances where you may need to send a truck out at odd hours. And so that type of thing we don't regulate, but we do regulate like parking areas to make sure that one of the conditions in there is that they have to pave the first 150 feet of their driveway, which is not dissimilar to how we've treated other uses in the county. And you may recall, like Mueller Pallet, we required them to pave coming onto a county road because I had some concerns about, debris or whatever mud being tracked onto the county highway. So we are making attempts to try and regulate the use so it best suits that site.
Thank you, Scott.
Mr. Chair, I can just throw in my comments from the, hearing this a couple times at the planning commission level and just note the discernment and distinctions made at the planning commission. Of course, this first came as a request to just change it straight out to commercial. And that was essentially rejected as kind of not consistent with our comprehensive plan and kind of a spot zoning, and just we would lose all control. It would just turn completely to commercial. So I think some good dialogue has been had. This plan development gives us a lot more flexibility, and just I think my experience with the planning commission is that they're able to make these distinctions and discernment of what's appropriate. And I think the applicant is on notice by the rejection of the commercial zoning that there's going to be some more restrictions. We're going to want to see more details. We're going to want to stay on top of this going forward. So I think the plan development is the right path forward, and I just encourage you to defer to our colleagues on the planning commission that are looking closely at this, and we'll continue to work closely on what those restrictions are going to be. So I'll be voting in favor.
Thank you, Commissioner. I do have a few questions of the applicant. What is the weight of a full tanker truck with the fuel in the truck? We have a load limit on county roads for several weeks every year. What is the average weight of a full tanker truck?
Average weight will certainly be, and of course, we have to get licenses to have certain weights, but it's about 80,000 pounds. I would state that this property is mainly just trucks going in and out that are empty.
Okay.
Because we don't store oil, we don't have oil spills, we don't store fuel there. We store trucks there, basically just a glorified parking lot with a warehouse. And so again, the trucks that are going up and down that highway don't have product in it. I would say 95% of the time they don't have any product in it unless there's an order rejected or something.
Okay, thank you, sir. Scott, where'd he go? Oh, there he is. Commissioner Kipley alluded to our comprehensive plan. How does this comply or maybe not comply with our comprehensive plan? Are we kind of bending rules a little bit to make this work?
Well, and then that is, it has been addressed in the staff report, so we have specific goals and policies listed in our comprehensive plan, and one of the goals is that you typically would locate commercial activities at the intersection of county highways. We like to see commercial activity along paved highways, either interstate interchanges, intersections of state and county highways, but along a county highway for sure. This generally meets the comprehensive plan's goals. I wouldn't say it is 100%. It's not at an intersection of two paved highways, but there you have it. It is trying to correct something that had occurred, and this, so, you know, the options were either deny it and we move in a different direction, or make a determination on whether a planned development could feasibly work in this area. And I think as Commissioner Benega indicated, you know, the beauty and the benefit of a planned development is it does give you some flexibility. I mean, it does give you continued oversight of the uses that occur on that property. So there are some benefits, and the comprehensive plan that we recently adopted last year identifies the benefit and the nature of a planned development, and that those specifically are used to address issues that, like redevelopment and new development that perhaps has not been thought of for a specific area. So in some ways it does mesh with our comprehensive plan. And is it 100% meshing with it? No, it would be better if it was at an intersection. But the intersection, there's actually, this is in the middle, basically another 1.5 miles to the east, there's an intersection of two more county highways. a mile and a half to the west, there's an intersection of the state highway, 115 that goes into Del Rapids, and this county highway. The highway on the east side is basically the extension of Veterans Parkway. So so if you continue on Veterans Parkway, this is the extension. So in some ways, it is in the middle of an intersection of two major highways. So there are some considerations to be made on that transportation network as well.
Is there a housing eligibility on this property that hasn't been used?
Not on the larger parcel. So between the two parcels, there is one housing eligibility,
And that's
that's
been
for that
used.
existing residence. With the adoption of this plan development, there will no longer be, eventually, that residence will be converted into something else, more likely office space for the business. But there would no longer be that residential use there.
Okay. Help me out a little bit here, Scott. It looks like spot zoning, and we're kind of getting around that by doing a planned development. Am I wrong in interpreting it that way?
Well, I would say that looking at the size of this parcel, it's almost 22 acres. I feel that, a spot zoning is when you end up with a smaller parcel, 1 to 2 or 3 acres in the middle of a area of an existing zoning district. It is sometimes we're concerned about spot zoning creating a precedent because it would allow other requests to be piggybacked on that rezoning request to say, well, now I'm just expanding an existing commercial district. But as we've talked about, a planned development has some unique characteristics. So you can't just bring another request in and say, I want to piggyback on that planned development, because that planned development is for a specific use. So a new planned development would have to be reviewed and specifically evaluated as to what they're proposing. So it sort of takes away that precedent issue that we're sometimes concerned about. Is it setting a precedent? Because each planned development is a unique character, basically. So the long answer to your question is, I don't feel that a planned development is necessarily spot zoning. It's just a unique character.
Thank you. From the applicant, there's that western side of the property. What's the future plan? I mean, that's a big piece of land right there. You're just using the northeast corner. What's the plan for the western side?
There will be some expansion closer to the middle of that larger parcel. I envision, my clients advise that between berming and other buffering that's anticipated there, that they plan to berm the entire western border, the southern border, so that's going to occupy a lot of those acres. There may be some growth, but it's not anticipated that the entirety of the 22 acres will be for the existing commercial use.
Thank you. Okay.
Would you give me the liberty of just speaking to your master plan question a little bit?
Sure.
I think this is an appropriate fit for the county's master plan in the sense that Mr. Anderson alluded to the highway system, and this particular stretch of highway running between the Midland corner and the northern extension of Veterans Parkway is really the natural parallel for commercial development to take place in a controlled way, given its location and parallel function to Interstate 90. And also, with respect to the county's intention to have rural service areas, what this project allows to happen is for the Midway intersection to have more customer-facing uses. So that's where the customer traffic, the rural service traffic that the county is desiring to have at key intersections, it allows that to develop further there by moving this parking lot, essentially, storage facility, away from the intersection where it can have customer-facing traffic to a location that makes sense and can get away from the high-traffic areas. So it satisfies, and Volun Oil, in fact, was featured in the county's master plan for its use there, and I think that this plan development satisfies a number of the goals in Section 8 of the county's master plan as well.
Okay. I guess, looking at this big picture-wise, it's looking like asking for forgiveness instead of permission because it's been there for 2 years, and I've heard it been described as flexible and creative, and it's a compromise. It's not the way we do things, and it really bothers me that this kind of came about the way it did. I know the planned development, it was kind of a way to maybe regulate it more, but again, it's not the way that we should be doing things when it comes to zoning. I truly have a hard time with approving this. Any other questions or comments from the commission or action?
Mr. Chair, I have one quick question before we move on to action. Perhaps direct this towards Mr. Shetter. Just wondering how this planned development zone fits within the greater operations of Volun Oil. I know the other larger site is within a few minutes away, and maybe you can give me a rundown of the relationship between the two facilities and how it will be used.
I think Todd can speak to that with much greater detail and authority than I can, if you wouldn't mind.
So at our, I'll call it our business site, where we have our pumps and small convenience store, we also have our diesel and auto service shops. It was our main campus and has been there for over 100 years. The expansion or the growth of our company has just been exponential over the past 5 years, and which has been great. But we also, as we acquired trucks, no longer had the ability to park them at the site where our main campus has been. This opportunity from the Schurs was to, hey, can we park our trucks behind here? And with that, that's kind of where that went. The growth just kept going, and just needed a place to park our trucks. And the shed there provided, a good spot for us to park our trucks as well. The tank wagon trucks, you won't see those in the pictures because they're inside the building, but the semis are the ones that are parked outside.
Yeah. When do the trucks typically leave and come back? Is there kind of a schedule that they follow?
It does vary quite a bit, depending if we're, hauling fuel across the state or if it's for the city of Sioux Falls. It really varies. But once they leave in the morning, I would say anywhere typically 6:30 to 8 in the morning. Come back between 5 and 7. Is, I would say, the large share of our traffic. But during the day, there might be a truck that comes and switches out. It gets a different trailer because it's different product that needs to be taken to a customer. But again, we're empty most of the times because we're going to the Magellan Terminal on 12th Street to pick up most of our product. And then we do our distribution from there, and or our bulk plant, which is right at the site, the original site. There is no bulk plant at the facility now. We're looking to maybe do some propane. You saw some propane tanks in the picture. Looking to store some propane.
All right, thank you, Todd.
Mr. Chair, I'll just add and address your concerns. I think there's a valid element of the theory of are we asking for forgiveness rather than permission at the outset? And would this have been the ideal process that we would lay out? No. But granting that, I still think we had a system in place where we're addressing something that has arisen, but we're doing it with enough discernment that we did not just blanket acquiesce to the first proposal of turning it into commercial and then having wide open use. We've acknowledged this is not the use that's supposed to be going on there. Let's go through a concerted effort in good faith negotiation of what should that use be. The Planning Commission pushed back on just turning it to commercial. Now we're at a stage where there's a planned development proposal that we will be able to tailor that plan to make sure it's as satisfactory as possible to all parties concerned, and we'll have ongoing oversight. So is this exactly how we would set things up? No, but I wouldn't say that this is unprecedented in a way that it's completely counter. I think it's our planning commission and planning staff working with an applicant to work through issues, get to a better result than what maybe was initially proposed. So I would ask that we give deference to that planning staff and planning commission that have been kind of on the front lines of watching this issue percolate through the system. And I think I would have a lot of trust and faith that the plan development will take some of this history into account, and the fact that we have to continue seeing operating in good faith and meeting all of the requirements of this, knowing the history. And I think the applicant is essentially on notice that we aren't going to give carte blanche commercial purpose to this area. So with that, I'll make the motion to approve.
I'll second that.
Motion and a second. Additional comments?
I would just, if I may,
Please.
I'm not going to go into personal history, but my dad worked at a co-op in the middle of Lenox for almost 40 years, and it's been there for probably close to 70. There's never been an accident that was significant other than maybe a tank that small tank that got left open for whatever reason. Bulk incidents have never happened there. I would also tell you that I think this plan development corrects some of the things that were done prior to this whole process. It's not the ideal situation, as you mentioned, but I definitely think that stopping it in the middle of a process is wrong, because as we all know, life changes and projects change and development changes. So until we hear a final product, I think it's improper for us to just say, no, you can't do it.
Thank you. I guess appreciate your comments, Commissioner Kipley. And you're right. I think of all in oil, you've been served notice that you're being watched, and in a way, shame on you for even doing this from the beginning. Against my better judgment, I will vote in favor of the planned development, knowing that this is going to have your eyes on it, or the eyes are going to be on it, and a bit of a microscope. If there's no additional comments, call the roll.
Kipley,
Aye.
Benega,
Aye.
Heisey,
Aye.
Karski.
Aye. Motion carries. Moving on. We have a City of Sioux Falls briefing on tax increment financing 27 Smithfield relocation. Dustin Powers.
Good morning, County Commissioners. Dustin Powers, Planning and Development Services for the City of Sioux Falls. With me today, I have Bob Munt, the president of the Sioux Falls Development Foundation, who will be assisting with the presentation as well. As I'm sure you're aware, we had a significant announcement last week here in the City of Sioux Falls that Smithfield Foods has initiated the process to build a new state-of-the-art packaged meat and fresh pork processing facility in Foundation Park in Northwest Sioux Falls. In support of the project, the city has received a request for tax increment financing, and the commission, and is the reason why we're in front of the commission here today. As we've practiced in the past, we've done these informational presentations to keep the county commissioners apprised of when the City of Sioux Falls receives these requests, in hope that you'll still support the city's use of tax increment financing in the future, as it is one of the only economic development tools we have to support projects like this and make them happen. Just jumping in I just wanted to take a quick moment to remind everyone of Smithfield's history here in Sioux Falls and their impact. Smithfield's existing plant has been situated in downtown Sioux Falls since 1909 and has played a critical role in the regional economy. Today, they process nearly 20,000 hogs that are sourced from local producers from the region. They employ 3,200 employees here in Sioux Falls, and they have annual wages of over $200 million that go into our economy. They've been supporters of other community programs like United Way. And again, they generate a significant amount of direct impact, but also the indirect impact of all the other industries that they support here in Sioux Falls and the region. Smithfield plans to invest an estimated $1.3 billion to build the new packaged meat and fresh pork processing plant, Foundation Park. Construction of the 1.1 million square foot facility will begin in early 2027 with the planned completion at the end of 2028. This facility will be the most modern and technologically advanced facility in the entire country. So with that, as kind of a brief summary of the announcements that I know many of you were a part of over the last week and have heard a lot of information about the project, I'll turn it over to Bob Munt to kind of come up and give an overview of Foundation Park, the site that Smithfield's locating their current facility, and the redevelopment opportunity that will be created in downtown Sioux Falls once they relocate. And then I'll come up and talk a little bit more about the tax increment financing with this project.
Thank you, Dustin. Good morning, Commissioners. Thanks for having us up here today. Bob Munt with the Sioux Falls Development Foundation, just to give kind of an update on where we are in Foundation Park as it relates to Smithfield Foods. You'll all remember we established Foundation Park kind of back in 2015, 2016 as the state's first mega site industrial park. It features 1,000 plus acres, all zoned I-2 for heavy industry. It's identified in the city's comprehensive plan as heavy industry for the future land use planning. Excuse me. Some major economic drivers already out there. We have 2 Amazon facilities that are out there. The last one should begin operation later this year. Lineage Logistics, FedEx, both ground and freight are there. Share Incorporated, Auto Force will begin construction on their warehousing facility this spring. Nordica, Avera, O&M, just to name a few of those that are out there. There's been significant job growth in that particular area, tax revenue for the school district, for the county, and for the city. This is kind of an aerial view of the site looking to the southwest from the Renner Crooks corner of I-229. You can see there in the foreground, we are planning to put in an additional street there. Dairy Lane will run from essentially Highway 130 to Memory Lane, connecting that particular edge of the site itself. The area that you see highlighted in yellow is the actual 200 plus acres that will be used for the Smithfield food plant. We're still working on a number of things on the design of that, and we'll have more of that information hopefully posted by the end of the week on our website so we can take a look at that and what it might look like as it's actually situated on that site. So this, as Dustin mentioned, signifies a significant redevelopment opportunity in the city of Sioux Falls. Their current plant right now sits on 100 plus acres down there and near Falls Park. We intend to redevelop and revitalize that particular area. We'll go through a master planning process, taking a look at how we can essentially recreate and re-envision and reimagine that 100 to 120 acres that we'll have available down there. And we will acquire that site once Smithfield is ready to move into their new site out in Foundation Park. The infographic that you see there on the site basically overlays the current Smithfield site onto downtown Sioux Falls. So you can see it is a large area, basically recreating a second downtown. in Sioux Falls. And so we view this as an incredible opportunity for us to take a look at that site, reimagine it for the next 100 years, what it might look like going forward, helping to add tax base to the community, helping to add quality of life features to the community for that. And the tax increment financing district makes that possible for us to be able to do that. I will turn it back over to Dustin and let Dustin talk a little bit about the application itself. Thank you for your time today.
So based on the improvements that'll be had at the property, or that are contemplated at the property, there's an estimate of about $90 million over the next 20 years that can be generated through the tax increment finance district. As with all of our TIFs that the city of Sioux Falls has brought forward over the last couple decades, this will be a developer-funded TIF, which means Smithfield will be responsible for fronting all of the costs associated with the improvements of the site, and only upon approval of the TIF agreement that the city council would approve would the TIF proceeds be able to offset some of those costs. One of the key factors in making this new site and facility reality is the ability of Smithfield to be able to build and operate their own wastewater treatment plant on site. The cost of constructing a new wastewater facility to support this project is exorbitant, and so therefore the TIF proceeds are going to be used to support the expenses and facilitate the development of this site by reimbursing the expenses associated with the wastewater treatment plant. As with all TIFs that we do certify those expenses. So again, we review this as part of our development agreement. We'll review all expenses that are incurred and make sure that the expenses that were approved are what will be certified and what the funds will go to reimburse for. Anytime we're considering TIF, we do evaluate the public and economic benefits behind a project. A few of those that we'll highlight here today is that, again, Smithfield building and operating their own wastewater treatment facility has a major public benefit for the city of Sioux Falls. It preserves the capacity of our current facility and the investments that have been made in that recently. And by providing their own wastewater treatment plant and not having the city have to take on that capacity, it prevents taxpayers' future infrastructure and maintenance cost. This project will also retain our fourth largest employer here in Sioux Falls, again, keeping 3,200 jobs and over $200 million in wages in the Sioux Falls economy. It opens up that once-in-a-generation redevelopment opportunity. There's not very many instances across the nation you can identify that 100 acres have been made available in your downtown area for redevelopment. And again, we know that we can see a higher and better use of that property in the future. Smithfield's, again, redevelopment of the opportunity that this creates for the redevelopment of their existing site and the new facility at their new location will generate significant property taxes moving forward. And we believe that the significant economic and community benefits really makes this an appropriate use of tax increment financing for the city of Sioux Falls. There's been a lot of narrative around tax increment financing across the states in recent months. And so I just wanted to take an opportunity here to talk a little bit about, again, tax increment financing, how Sioux Falls utilizes it. Just to give a brief summary, tax increment is the increase in property tax revenue in a property within a TIF district after the designation of the TIF district and improvements occur compared to the revenue that's currently generated from that property before designation. So the property taxes that are there today will continue to be collected, and those will continue to be distributed to the taxing entities. Those are the base property value, and that's the base property tax. Only the additional taxes generated by the increased property value after the TIF formation are what are available for the city to use to pay for eligible project cost. In Sioux Falls, we've used TIF a number of ways. We've used it to encourage the redevelopment in deteriorated or blighted properties in our city. We've used it to stimulate economic development in the community by assisting projects that promote long-term economic vitality for the city of Sioux Falls, as well as the state of South Dakota. We've used it to increase the availability of housing options as it relates to affordable housing units, whether that's rented or sold units in the city of Sioux Falls. And we've used it to stimulate increased property values, and private investment in areas that would have remained undeveloped or underdeveloped here in the city. A few facts that I just want to highlight again with TIFs. TIFs are not a tax break. The property owner and the company will pay their property taxes for the associated project. What the TIF allows in the creation of the TIF is that the incremental taxes that are generated by the project are used directly in the district to reimburse for eligible project costs. So taxes generated by the district, by the project, will be reinvested into the project. That's what TIF does. The project does have several public presentations, and I'll share those on the next slide. Because it is a developer-funded TIF, again, all of the costs are fronted by the developer, and only will they receive reimbursement upon approval of the TIF and the TIF development agreement that the City Council will approve. In terms of TIF timeline, we did do, the public announcement of the project was on February 16th. Tuesday following that, we had a City Council informational summarizing much of the information and we're sharing with you here today. We do have a Planning Commission meeting on March 4th. That'll be the first public hearing to hear the creation of the TIF and the project plan for the TIF. We'll be presenting another informational meeting for the Tri-Valley School District on March 9th, and then we'll have subsequent meetings at our City Council that'll come in front of them for consideration. So again, with that, we appreciate your guys' support as we utilize TIF in Sioux Falls to really help promote economic development and really get projects like this across the finish line. And me and Bob are here to answer any questions that you may have on the project.
Thank you, Dustin. We do take public comment before we go to commission questions. Anybody from the public want to address the commission on this presentation? All right. Commissioners, this is not an action item, but if you have questions or like clarity on anything, now's your opportunity.
I just have one quick question, and I think all of us recognize the fact that this is a monumental project for the significant growth of Sioux Falls over the next 100 or more years, which is amazing that this could even happen. It's a credit to the whole community and all the partners that you've put together. The TIF, as I understand it, and I was on the City Council for 8 years, is kind of misunderstood, to say the least. But I think this is a great opportunity to use in this particular project. I have one question about the wastewater plant that they're building for themselves. Do you have any idea what the cost of that's going to be? Because that certainly will go back into that TIF pool of money, as I understand.
Yeah, so they're still working through final design of that, but to give you some idea behind it, it would be at least around in the $150 million range for the investment. So the actual tax increment financing is not going to cover the entirety of the cost associated with the wastewater treatment plant, but there is significant public benefit for them to be taking on that responsibility themselves. They do treat the wastewater currently at their current facility, but anytime industry comes to Sioux Falls, or into a city, it is the responsibility of the city to serve those industries. And so them being good partners with us, and being able to take that on themselves is a great value to the community.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, thanks for presenting to the county. I think this is just good communication and showing that the different taxing districts we're having conversations about this. And although this is a City of Sioux Falls function and you can proceed knowing that you're talking with Tri-Valley School District, the county. I think as a stakeholder, as a county, I think one of the things we are watching for is when do these TIFs expire? When do they fall off and then they come into our tax rolls more proper? So my question was going to be, Foundation Parks had a lot of different developments, and either you or Bob can answer this, but can you give us a little bit of the history and any other TIFs that are on that property and when they're scheduled to roll off? And then now we're adding a new one that will have a 20-year horizon. And maybe does this overlap with any of those ongoing TIFs and monies being used for those projects? Or is this completely separate and distinct and the money will be tracked for this project alone? Or what's the overlap going on?
Yeah, good question. So to give you an idea, did bring up this exhibit. Sorry, I don't have the TIF maps in front of me, but what you'll see here is you'll see the Smithfield site on the very north end. So that's the north end of Foundation Park. That's the Highway 130, the Crooks Runner Road, and then all the way down down here north of McCrossin is kind of the southern boundary of Foundation Park. And so generally the south part of Foundation Park, south of the railroad tracks that's identified by that red line, was the original Foundation Park. And in 2020, we did create a TIF district that included Amazon, went straight north, and then everything north of the tracks up to the Smithfield site. So that was created as TIF 23. So everything to the east of Amazon is not included in a TIF district. So all of those projects that occurred are already generating tax revenue, and all the tax revenue generated from those projects are being distributed to the taxing entities. They're not in a TIF district. The Amazon facility and the properties to the north, and again, north of the tracks up to Memory Lane, which is the north boundary of TIF 20. That TIF was created in 2020. And so TIFs have a 20-year lifespan. And so we could see that paying off as by 2040. But based on some of the certifications that have occurred and some of the other projects that there's still land to be developed. So as more projects happen in that TIF district, increased valuation means the TIF could pay off sooner. So, but right now we'll be targeting that 20-year lifespan for that TIF. The Smithfield property that's highlighted in yellow is its own TIF district. So it's not overlapping any existing TIF districts. This will be TIF 27 to the city of Sioux Falls. So it'll be tracked on its own and separately. Again, creating it in the year 2026 means that it could survive until the year 2046.
And one other question, Mr. Chair, would just be, I know another concern and collaboration that the county and city have had in this area is just on roads and increased traffic. I know our highway superintendent is in the room, and his predecessor, I know, has worked on with city public works on accelerating different projects to make this a reality. And I think it's a mutual high priority. But do you see any additional investments or things we'll need from the county highway system to support the traffic that's going to increase to this site in the coming years?
Yeah, I guess I'll speak at a high level. Obviously, those conversations are coming on. Right now the city just bid out actually Marion Road. So on the west side of this property is Marion Road up to the Crooks Renner interchange there. And so we just bid out the Marion Road overchange, so it'll be a bridge, it'll go over that railroad track. And so the city is taking on those investments associated with that. As it relates to the interchange at the interstate of I-229, actually a couple years ago, the state highway, the State Department actually started to review what that interchange would look like due to the growth that was already occurring in Foundation Park. And so a study's been initiated. The Sioux Falls Development Foundation has also initiated a traffic study as a result of this project. And so that'll be finalized here in the coming weeks. And so that'll start to have the coordination and the collaboration that's needed between all of the entities to understand what's going to happen there. Because it's, the city of Sioux Falls, is on the, essentially, we're up to the road now, and ultimately Crooks is on the other side of the road. There'll be agreements on how that road will be maintained in the future.
Commissioner Isey?
Mr. Chair, perhaps you could speak to the wastewater treatment plant and how that's an improvement upon the existing situation where it's currently located, and the water quality of the Sioux River. Then also speak to maybe the updated technologies or uses of the new plant. Are we going to be seeing reduced smells, coming from the facility? And
yeah, I can speak to that at a high level. From the wastewater facility, actually their final treatment and wastewater facility that they have at their current location is state of the art. They've made a lot of amendments and updates to that. They actually invested in to the final treatment phase of that wastewater plant at their current facility just a few years ago and invested a significant amount of money. And so they're actually following all of the federal and state regulations as it relates to water quality. This new facility, they'll have a similar plant operations for wastewater treatment. But what they're doing at the current facility, they've kind of really piecemealed pieces that they could fix at given points in time. This allows them to create a state-of-the-art wastewater facility to treat their wastewater. And again, all of that's regulated by the DANR and federal regulations as relates to water discharge. And so I don't believe that there's going to be a significant difference in their wastewater discharge as it is today. It's just that they'll have all of that renewed in new investment at the new site. In terms of the manufacturing process, again, when they've made updates to their facility, which they have done over the years, it's kind of where can they do updates while not interrupting production, because it's a business, right? And so what they've had to do is ultimately piecemeal pieces together. And when you piecemeal technologies and things like that together, you're not getting the most efficient use of all of those technologies. By building a new facility here, they're allowed to bring all of the state-of-the-art production facilities and equipment into one location all at the same time. And so, again, they do believe that they'll see a significant amount of efficiencies within the production space that'll allow them opportunity to continue to produce at what they're currently producing, but also an opportunity for growth in the future.
In terms of square footage and scale of the new facility, is it going to be larger than the one that's being moved? And are they going to be employing additional employees?
So I don't have the exact square footage of their current facility, but if you've ever toured it, it's a hodgepodge of a number of buildings over time. And so, but what this will do is provide 1.1 million square feet of flat floor space for them to, again, have an efficient layout for their production facility. In terms of the employees, they currently have 3,200, and they'll be upscaling a lot of the technology in this, which means that they're going to need to upskill some of their employees. But what we've discussed with them is that they would have a similar amount of employees of what they currently have at the current facility.
Yeah, and this is a follow-up. If the current trajectory of the project holds, when can we expect the older facility to be torn down and kind of moved over to new development?
Yeah, so we know that we got to allow them to continue to operate at their current facility until the new facility is built. Right now, the target completion date for the new facility is the end of 2028, maybe early 2029. Based on some initial studies, we know that it's going to be an 18-month to 24-month period just to remediate the site. So that would be tearing down the buildings and cleaning up any of the property to make it developable in the future. And so in that, just looking at that, that's pretty much a 5-year window before we'll have land ready for development. And so, as Bob mentioned, we have some time here to kick off kind of a master planning process, and we're working with the Development Foundation on what that process will look like over the next few years here, so that we can be ready when that time comes to start seeing redevelopment opportunities on that property. But we are looking at at least a 5-year window before we'll see new development occurring on the existing site.
Great, thank you.
Congratulations to the Development Foundation, the city, and quite honestly to all the communities in the area. I think we're all going to benefit from for generations from what's going to happen out there. This is just fantastic. A TIF is so misunderstood, and it's so appropriate for what you have going on here. My understanding of the numbers is that a new wastewater state-of-the-art treatment facility out at their new location, like you said, north of $150 million. And they already put $100 million into the plant that they have downtown here. So, a very targeted $90 million to make this happen for that wastewater treatment plant where the entire community benefits. it just makes sense. So I really don't have a question. I'm excited for this. I think the TIF is absolutely appropriate and the right thing to do, and keep it moving. Thank you. All right, moving on. Consider a motion to authorize the Minnehaha County Sheriff's Office to apply for the Walmart Community Grant Program. Captain Bosman, good morning, sir.
Good morning, Commissioners. Joe Bosman, Minnehaha County Sheriff's Office. This morning I have in front of you a request. This is our third time that we will be seeking application to apply for some funding from a Walmart Community Grant Program. This is a grant that has been awarded to us twice before. In 2024, we received $2,500, and then last year in 2025, we received $3,000. Funds used from this are designated specifically for our community engagement committees. Primarily, our biggest event is our Christmas with the Deputies event. I do have some photos attached to this as we scroll down. Our most recent event was very well attended, lots of fun. The Grinch showed up and did not steal the presents. He helped get the presents to the kids. So ultimately, the funds that we come with this provide money to provide kids presents and provide a meal for families, a real true opportunity for us as law enforcement to reach out to the community. And so we're excited for this opportunity. Walmart's excited for us again to apply for it. And so with your permission, we would apply and see what we can get.
Thank you, Captain. Public comment on this agenda item. Commission, turn it over to you for action.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion is second, call the roll.
Benega.
Aye.
Kipley.
Aye.
Heisey.
Aye.
Karski.
Aye, motion carries. Authorize the chair to sign an agreement between JDC and Southeastern Behavioral Health for QMHP services. A lot of initials there, Jamie.
Jamie Gravitt, Juvenile Detention Center. QMHP stands for Qualified Mental Health Professional. Southeastern has been a partner with us since 2013, providing those services. It's mainly crisis intervention for kids that are suicidal while they're in juvenile detention center. There was an increase of $75 a week for their on-call pay to their counselors that come out and all hours of the day for them to be on call. The regular hourly rate stayed the same. I'd ask that you approve this contract.
Thank you, Jamie. Public comment on this agenda item. Jamie, what do we budget annually for the $75 an hour? How many hours a year do we?
I don't know that off the top of my head.
Okay.
I can get it to you real quick when I get back to the office.
It would be good to know. I appreciate it. Thank you. Other questions for Jamie? Action?
Mr. Chair, if I would, maybe you could break down and explain the interaction between the JDC and these mental health professionals, and what circumstances do they show up, and how often are they on site?
Sure. So when youth are admitted into the detention center, we complete a suicide risk inventory. Based on how they score on that inventory would determine if a QMHP is needed immediately or if they could come out the next day. Also, interactions with kids that, an example might be a kid finds out that they are going to plead to a murder case. We would have the QMHP work with them because it's going to be a very trying time for them, and they're at highest risk for suicide in those situations. So if a kid attempts suicide while they're in our facility, the QMHP would be there immediately to help us through that situation and use their expertise to guide us on what to do next.
Yeah, and how many mental health professionals are on call on any basis?
There's just one a week that they have. I think it rotates through 4 of them that they take turns, basically.
Yeah, frankly, it's a little bit concerning to me that we're going from $200 a week to $275. It's quite a jump. Does it increase on a regular basis?
It
year to
hasn't
year,
increased
or?
for a while as far as the on-call per week. I think part of that is just getting the staff to have staff available. And since it's a limited amount, if they lose another one, then it falls on fewer people. So it's kind of an incentive to try and keep people involved in the on-call services that we need.
Thank you.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion a second. Call the roll.
Kipley.
Aye.
Benega.
Aye.
Heisey.
Aye.
Karski.
Aye. Motion carries. Authorize the chair to enter into and sign the 2026 per diem contracts between JDC and 17 user counties. Jamie, when do we change that to JJC?
Probably when the whole project's done. Right now, we're still at just a juvenile detention center.
Okay.
So probably the first of the year, it'll become officially the Juvenile Justice Center.
Thank you.
Before you today is our yearly contracts with our counties that use our center for their detention services. We have 17 total in South Dakota and one from Minnesota that contract with us. The cost of the beds increased at JDC about 5%, and the rate will be $522.02. We also contract with Lincoln County for community supervision services. That went up 3%. It'll be a total of $82.53. Evening Report Center, again with Lincoln County, that went up 4% by contract with LSS. That amount is $57.79. And then finally, Shelter Care, again by contract, went up 4% to $308 a day. I'd ask that you approve these contracts.
Public comment. Anybody from the public like to address this item? Commission.
I'll just make a comment if I may. I think that the last quote survey that we did at JJC, that we expected that 80% of the kids that are in that program, young people, are affected by mental health related issues.
That's a
Yep.
safe assumption, yes.
Yeah, and the other thing that I'll say is in reference to Commissioner Heisey's question, these contracts reflect that increase, and it takes care of some of that cost that we are required to have. And frankly, there's a lot of federal regulations in running a JJC that we have no control over.
Correct.
I'll make a motion to approve. I'll make the motion to approve.
I'll second that.
Motion is second. Any additional comments? Call the roll.
Kipley.
Aye.
Benega.
Aye.
Heisey.
Aye.
Karski.
Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Consider bid results and award recommendations for project MC 2407 Highway 114 culvert replacement, and authorize chair to sign an agreement with Runge Enterprises Incorporated. Morning, Jacob.
Morning, Commission. Jacob Mars, Highway Superintendent. We bid a project recently for a box culvert replacement. We got 16 bidders. Our estimate for this project was roughly $350,000, and it came in at $254,930. So we were very impressed with what our bids were, and there's contractors out there looking for work.
Good to know. Public comment. Commission action.
I would make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion is second. Call the roll.
Benega.
Aye.
Heisey.
Aye.
Kipley.
Aye.
Karski.
Aye. Motion carries. Consider a motion to declare Highway Department items as surplus and authorize disposal by online auction through Purple Wave, with proceeds returning to the Highway and Bridge Fund. Jacob.
Morning, Commission. Jacob Mars. Every year we purchase new equipment. This is some equipment we're looking to get rid of from equipment that we purchased last year. In here are some portable traffic signals, which we use when we do bridge repairs. We set those up, and it creates a temporary signalized one-lane road across a bridge. They work quite well. We purchased a new message board last year, so we will surplus that. We're visiting with the Sheriff's Department right now to see if they need an additional message board. There's a semi-tractor, a plow truck, an F-250 with a plow, and a mechanics diagnostic tool for a total estimated value of $68,000. And these will be posted on Purple Wave.
Public comment? Commission.
I'd make a motion to approve.
Second.
Mr. Chair, I do have one quick question.
Please.
These items that we're surplusing, have they already been replaced?
Let's see, the diagnostic tool, we got a new free tool from, the sheriff's surplus last year. The Western plow, F-250, that one is replaced. The plow truck is replaced. The semi-tractor is replaced. Yep, they've all been replaced.
Excellent, thank you.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Roll call vote.
Benega.
Aye.
Kipley.
Aye.
Heisey. Aye. Karski.
Aye, motion carries. Consider a motion to declare Highway Department scrap iron as surplus and authorize disposal by recycling with proceeds returning to the Highway and Bridge Fund. Jacob.
Commission, Jacob Mars, Highway Department again. This is just a request to surplus our scrap material out at the Highway Department. It requires a action by the commission in order for us to surplus this item. We expect it's going to be somewhere around $1,500 and would like to deposit that money back into the highway fund when we're done.
Public comment? Commission action.
Second.
Motion is second. Call the roll.
Heisey.
Aye.
Kipley.
Aye.
Benega.
Aye.
Karski.
Aye, motion carries. All right, we begin our annual presentations. We begin with the Commission Office annual presentation. Good morning, Tom.
Good morning, Tom Greco, Commission Administrative Officer. So yes, this is the first of several presentations that you'll receive from departments over the next several months. Today, I'll obviously be talking just about the Commission Office. Just want to highlight our organization, obviously a small office, myself, and then Meredith, Sandy, and Joel, providing a variety of different functions. Great team that we have. Do want to point out that Sandy is celebrating 25 years with the county next week. So a good deal of experience, mostly with Sandy. So we appreciate that and look forward to our continued support to the commission. And so what we generally do is we implement the policies, procedures, and regulations that are established by the commission. We're also here to collaborate with other organizations within the county, outside of the county, so on and so forth, to ensure that we're meeting our goals and objectives. And finally, we do advise on matters coming before the commission. So view ourselves as an essential resource to commissioners, the public, and other departments. Just looking at an annual snapshot, this shows 2025, some of the key items that I want to highlight. In terms of support to the commission, this is obviously one of the more visible things. You all do all the work, but we are happy to support over 60 meetings per year with over 900 agenda items. We also manage about 60 commission liaison assignments. So that's not so much a testament to the office, but obviously to the commission, who's covering down on each of our departments, a variety of boards and commissions throughout the community, and also various outside organizations that the county provides financial support to. And also we play an integral role in budget planning and preparation, which again, these annual presentations really are the official in-meeting kickoff to that process that we'll see really unfold later this spring. Implementing policies, programs, and procedures. Some of the key accomplishments this past year, one of the key things is the Juvenile Justice Center construction project. This past year, the county expended about $16.3 million. Wanted to point out that phase one of that project was completed, a testament to Jamie and his team, but also a very big interdepartmental effort to ensure that we can see that project move forward and obviously become operational. We do anticipate phase two being complete later this year in the winter. And so certainly that's an exciting project. So the Safety and Justice Challenge, the commission secured a $250,000 grant from the MacArthur Foundation. We are actually in the final stretch of that. This is the last year of funding, but last year we did, in 25, manage about $125,000 worth of that grant funding. And then also just want to point out kind of the flexibility and the adaptability of the commission office. We are small, but we manage a budget that really amounts to about $15.5 million. That's the amount of money that goes through the office. Granted, a good portion of that comes from other types of expenditures like the Juvenile Justice Center, so on and so forth. But we're also kind of a clearinghouse for several other programs and contracts throughout the county, so are happy to do that. Just in terms of our work with other organizations, departments, so on and so forth, we do manage over 40 contracts within the office. That ranges everything from our construction contract for the JJC down to the operation of our agenda software. We also help manage 24 internal and external boards. Those are the boards that you all sit on, and take the lead on the Juvenile Justice Collaborative. It's a multi-stakeholder consortium of groups aimed at improving and managing juvenile justice within the county, and also the Safety and Justice Challenge. That's a program that the county's been a part of since 2018 here within the county, and certainly has paid huge dividends over the course of time. Finally, just want to land on just some of the advising that we do. Certainly ordinance and policy reviews, are happy to be a part of that. Legislative session bill tracking, you've had a chance to see Meredith up here. She does a phenomenal job with that. This year in particular, we've seen quite a heavy load of lots of bills. You'll get a flavor of that again at the end of this meeting. And of course, just managing our property and liability insurance. So insurance, to some, is not super exciting, but for us, it's a key part of what we do to manage our costs and also manage risk within the county. All right. So looking at this year, some of the key things, campus master planning. So I highlighted this last year as one of the things to look forward to in 26. I'm happy to say that we'll be completing the master planning process this spring. Over the course of the next month and a half, you'll see a series of products that explain ultimately what will be the final campus master plan. Juvenile Justice Center construction, spoke to that a little bit earlier, but I do just want to remind folks that project remains about $2 million under its original budget of $50 million. That's a testament to the hard work that's been put in by staff. But certainly our partners, particularly our contractor, architects, owners rep, and it's been a great team to work with. The Safe Home LLP transition, limited liability partnership, this should be fairly transparent to everyone, but it will take some effort on our part to transition the partial ownership of city housing due to the tax credits, so we'll be looking at getting that accomplished by the end of this year. More to follow, but it will be one of the major lifts from the office. Completion of the Safety and Justice Challenge grant funding. I mentioned before we're in the last grant period, and so those funds will be expended by the end of this year, and we will be self-sustaining on many of the programs that we've adopted over the course of time. And then, of course, just the FY27 budget. One of our focuses just within the office, but also the overall commission process. And again, you'll see a series of department heads and some of our external departments up here over the course of the next several months. The other thing I wanted to point out is that we do have our outside agencies coming in concurrently with departments. So you'll see up to three, sometimes 4 presentations at particular meetings. We think it's a good idea to put it closer to our budget meetings in June, so we are able to get you all the information that you need to make informed decisions come summertime. So with that, I will take any questions.
Thank you, Tom. Public comment on this agenda item. I guess my only comment is when I start talking about insurance, I do see a lot of stifled yawns, so I do understand what you're saying. Any questions from the commission?
I just have one question. After Sandy's been working with County Commission for 25 years, does she get combat pay?
We'll have to look into that.
Okay, thanks.
All right, thank you, Tom. Moving on, our next presentation is from the Director of Equalization. Good morning, Chris.
Good morning,
Kyle.
Commission. Chris Lilla, Equalization Director, brought with me, wherever he's at, Kyle Sexy, Deputy Director. Just to start off with, as we do every year, this is just the oath that our office takes. I have wonderful, well-trained staff, and this oath is, we live and breathe it. So we do our utmost and with humbleness and to assist the taxpayers of the county in every way that we can. Sometimes the answers we have to give are not what want to be heard, but we approach every situation uniquely and singularly. So what we do, we maintain and update all county data. We assess all real estate property for taxation. We track and record all sales data. We establish growth and TIF increment values. Again, as with the city of Sioux Falls, we work hand in hand with them on their TIF 27 and institute code and program all of that in and then track all of those values. So we administer all the exempt programs for the most part, work with planning and development, future projects, as well as reappraisal. So within the county, we are the largest county. Obviously, everyone knows that. We have just over 79,500 parcels, 79,511 parcels to be precise. Next year, I anticipate will be over 80,000. With each property that comes into that, we have a property record card that maintains all transactional history of ownership, of values, of size changes, of plats, replats, splits, combines, merges, etc. All notes, a detailed file anytime an appraiser views that property for any reason, whether it be a building permit, reappraisal, just a taxpayer request. All of those notes are documented in there, as well as photography, sketches, if applicable, lots of information. With that comes an identification number and a map ID number. Again, we maintain the history, all sales, sketches, property values, photos, inspection notes. Sales, total number of transfers. So not when we talk about sales, it is really a transfer. If a husband and wife are married and get divorced, that's a transfer, giving from one to another. So sales and transfers kind of run hand in hand, but we had 6,454. That was a decrease in sales of 12% from 2025. So that is really only the volume of transfers. The values remained pretty static or pretty consistent in that. So there wasn't a decrease. We will continue to record and trend market sales and make any annual market adjustments accordingly. Our office does not predict values of sales. We only track past sales against past assessments to determine the change. Again, each property has a specific valuation in relation to its characteristics and/or land productivity. Annually, we evaluate the level of assessments in each taxing jurisdiction, review sales data to determine market fluctuations, and implement those assessment changes. As the board is well versed, we are required to remain our countywide level of assessment between 85% and 100%. We usually try to be at 90. For the last 2 years, it's the first 2 years I think I've ever started in compliance with state law. This year, our starting level, last year we ended at just over 90%. This year we started at 85.22. That means the market ran away from us a little bit, but we actually started within compliance. We target between 90 and 94. Average market adjustment this year was about 6.25. Our ending ratio now again is 90.57 for this year. So when we look at the sales, we started at 85.22 as a whole. We want to be in that 90 range. It's your 6.5 or 6.25% increase above that. As an average, some areas are going up more than that. Some areas are coming down. Some house types go up. Some house types come down. It's just the average of all of it, but we are maintaining our level of assessment in that 90% range. Valuation types, we're required by law to look at every property under a cost approach, income approach, sales comparison approach. Obviously, that's what we do. Any improvement starts out at the cost to build new, then it takes off depreciation for loss of value over time for wear and tear, physical, functional. That's the cost approach. After that, we then pair that to the market sales, and now it becomes a sales comparison approach. Income approach is to be used on anything that potentially has income producing capabilities. We do use income approach most widely on our apartments. We can look at that. As far as a residential home, no, income approach is not applicable. Also, we track all building permits and growth. Growth is any new value added in the county over the previous year with some limitations now with Senate Bill 216. But growth is is expressed as a level of percentage. That's probably the most important for the county and the city and the school for their budgeting. That is one of the areas that is allowed for you to increase your previous year's budgets, is growth. So we do our best to track and keep track of that, again, in compliance with Senate Bill 216. Some of the things now are not applicable as growth. So again, if you make an improvement to your house, put in new window siding, things like that, that would extend the life of the home, that will increase the value of the home because it is a newer home with less depreciation. It will last longer now. But if that value change doesn't exceed 40% of the pre-existing value, it is now considered reappraisal and not growth. So that change in value, you are not allowed to use it for your budget increases. A lot of programs that we administer and assist with. Obviously, owner-occupied is probably our biggest. We do our best. We're not required to send anything out to taxpayers, but we do. This year, we sent out just I think 2,100 letters to potential homeowners that we've found through our system that were not receiving owner occupancy that may qualify. So again, in order to qualify for owner occupancy, they had to own the home by November 1st. They had to occupy it, had to be their principal residence, and they can only claim it on one property. We scrub our system to find all new transfers that we have not received an application for. On the inverse of that, we also send out removal letters, which we are required to do anytime we remove owner occupancy. We scrub those two to test, has a mailing address changed from the previous year, whereas now their mail is going to out of state or someplace else. Well, then how can you live and occupy that home? So we do our best on that. Elderly freeze is a big one this year. That's a program through the treasurer's office, but we are inherently involved in that with the approval for the valuation limitation on that, as well as once they accept the income, then it comes to us for the value, and then we take it over from there. So we are the coders and the trackers of all of that. Discretionary formula, where and when applicable, we manage all of those. Disabled veterans, renewable energy credit, as well as every other exemption for renewable, or religious, charitable, benevolent, etc. Agricultural exemptions, the list goes on and on. We are the catch-22 for all of that. 2025, some of our accomplishments. Obviously, the county hadn't completed a physical reappraisal for many, many years. We started that 3 years ago. The first year was COVID. We were going to start, but we did an in-house desktop review with COVID going on. So that really was the big build for us to kind of go through and do the best that we could with what we had. After that, we have been physically going out and reviewing each summer. Every appraiser has designated areas, and we go out and they are going door to door to door to door, knocking on every door, looking at every house, updating all the records, making sure that what taxpayers are being valued against is still remaining accurate. Obviously, that takes time with nearly 80,000 parcels. But we're just keep trudging away. With that, with the accuracy change in our data, the physical reviews, some of our modeling, a lot of work by Kyle and the staff going through, we are now reaping the rewards of the work. The appeal volume has obviously decreased substantially. We still get a lot of inquiries, but we're able to bring them in, educate them, share with them, show them that they are being treated fair, they are being equalized, and they are not being valued higher than market value. So I always tell people we got to put all properties in a bowl. Somebody always doesn't fit, and we're humble enough to not say that we're right. We take a look at that on an individual basis. Sometimes there's adjustments that need to be made, sometimes there's not. Obviously, we track all legislation changes. Some of the big ones now I've already briefed on with Meredith. One left on the table that we really need to kill is that House Bill 1253, the Olympic average. I'll be working on that. That's going to be heard tomorrow morning. Beacon, that's another one that we brought to the county several years ago that has basically allowed me right now I have a vacancy in one of my clerks that I am not anticipating on filling. part of that is due to Beacon. The call volume that we get. Right now, our call volume is high with the assessment notices being sent out, but once this little hill climbs and dumps, they're able to work at their jobs, do their tasks without interruptions and things because of the volume of Beacon. And it has continued to be growing and growing and growing. So thank you to the commission for allowing that to come here. Goals for the future is obviously we need to continue our physical reappraisals. We identify those by looking at the statistics of the sales that occurred in this past year, specifically the coefficient of dispersion. That tells us how tight is our bullseye in our valuation. When we have an area that has a big bullseye, the median and average is all fit, but you just don't have a tight grouping of bullseye. Those are the ones that are indicating that either A, our data is inconsistent with what's selling, or B, the sales are really selling that inconsistent. And for the most part, when you have the volume of sales that we do, it's the data in there isn't as consistent or as uniform. So we're working from the worst to the best in our first review here. And that, again, should alleviate a lot of the appeals. Building permits, obviously, we're growing. Every building permit needs to be physically reviewed and inspected by the appraisers, so that continues to grow. That continues to be a challenge. And right now, we're able to maintain the workload, but in the future, we will probably, again, be coming to the commission to request another appraiser and try and keep us able to manage the workload. Desktop review, Kyle is really instrumental in that. He's constantly querying out data and comparisons and making sure that all data of all like properties in the system are entered uniformly, accurately, looking for any outliers and things like that. So we do our very best, and we're not perfect. We admit when there's mistakes, and we are happy to correct them. And I think we've come a long ways. So I appreciate the support of the commission.
Thank you, Chris. Public comment on this agenda item. I guess my only comment, Chris, congratulations to you and your staff. I'm pretty certain that when you get phone calls, it's not to thank you for the valuation, the assessments.
Get that once in a while, but
You do? Okay.
it's far and few between.
Okay, well, I know that you guys have done a lot of extra work, you personally taking a lot of calls, and you're a very public-facing office for the county, and the work you do really does make a difference on public perception of how the county works with the taxpayers. So thank you for what you do. Any additional comments?
Just one question, Mr. Chair. Chris, can you clarify how many years your team has been doing those in-person reviews and what kind of pace we're on to get to all of them? I feel like you maybe said it might take 7 years, a 7-year cycle.
Ideally, it's 4 to 6 years should be the review. We're looking at probably 8 to 10 on the first run, because to go through the data, they're finding a lot of inconsistencies, specifically in the rural stuff. And it's not necessarily that we've been missing value, it's that we're finding buildings that are on the records that aren't there. And those taxpayers have been paying taxes for those. Everyone knows when you construct, pretty much, you should get a building permit. No one knows that if you tear something down, you're supposed to get a demolition permit. And that is the notification to us that you've torn something down, and we can remove that value. So with the lack of physical reviews occurring, if you tore it down 2 years ago, that barn went down, and most of those buildings are minimal value anyway and very minimal tax impact. But you do 1,000 of those, there is an impact.
Yeah, it's good to hear that. Yeah, there's obviously, in some of these in-person reviews, it's coming out to the benefit of the taxpayer.
is.
Obviously, sometimes you're finding a finished basement that you didn't know was finished. So it goes in both directions. But in my 3 years of doing the appeals, I think that was one of the arguments that gets brought up quite a bit is you guys haven't come around to do a review. And obviously, on that appeal, you offer to come out and
Correct.
review that individual property in person, but you have to get the person's permission. But I just think that's the one last structural improvement to your process. I think your methodology is very sound. The proof is in the pudding that we're getting fewer and fewer appeals, but getting on a cycle where we've reviewed everyone in person physically and having that circle back on itself into a second cycle will probably be the culmination of all of the reforms you put in.
I would agree with that.
All right, thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
And final, Human Resources. Good morning, Carrie.
Good morning, Carrie Deaver from Human Resources. Taking a similar approach to past presentations, starting out by talking a little bit about the year in review, talking about what's to come in the future, and then also taking a chance to update you a little bit on our workforce review. Most of you are, in fact, all of you are very familiar with what our past years look like. It's focused predominantly on that job evaluation and compensation study. Very grateful to the Commission's support as we implemented that last fall and as we finished implementation with some paid time off accrual changes here for 2026. While it looks like the study is complete, from our standpoint, it is not quite there. The last component of that is a job description review. So our group is currently meeting with department heads to take a look at the job descriptions, make sure that they're up to date, and then transitioning them over to NeoGov, which is our recruitment system. Other things that we're continuing to look at or had in the past year was utilization of onboard. I talked to you about that last year, and that system, the benefits that has for us in bringing new staff on board and making sure that new employee paperwork is completed, and some of that first few days is going well for our new staff. And then additional recruitment resources through 1220, which is really focused. We looked at for attorney recruitment, but helps us with our professional recruitment as well. For the upcoming year, again, that job description review is ahead of, is right in front of us. We're looking at onboard for further optimization, and where we're really looking at that is for hopefully helping departments as they onboard their staff. The biggest thing really in our forefront that we're looking at for a big project is, I think you know that we have a small group, but they've done an outstanding job in trying to bring us forward with social media recruiting, making sure that where we can have video materials for recruitment, it's there. But we haven't really looked at using an outside vendor to improve our branding or our social media processes. So that is one thing that we would like to do, to look at a way to improve our recruitment initiatives. For the challenges and opportunities, it will remain to be attracting and retaining qualified staff. I have some good news coming up in that area, but it's going to become, in an organization with turnover at the rate that ours is, we're going to continue to focus on that. And then also focusing on improving our efficiencies within the office. So you know that this is an annual review that our office does to make sure that we're staying on top of any potential trends. I share with the Commission each year just a small subset of that data, but hopefully some of the most important ones. And because you've seen it before, I'm going to breeze through these fairly quickly and then focus on maybe some things that I want you to be aware of as we go into the next year. FTE history, you know that we've had an increase predominantly because of jail staffing and other law enforcement and public safety related areas. This number does still include those 14 new jail positions, which they've managed to be able to hold off on future expansion and leave those positions unfilled. This is where we start to get to some of our good news. You know that we've talked a lot over the last few years about the cost of turnover and the difficulty we've had in retaining staff. There's some signs that we're seeing improvement in that area. We were lucky to see our turnover go down. We posted many fewer positions last year than we have in previous. This can be somewhat misleading because we might post several correctional officer vacancies or attorney vacancies in one posting, but we did post fewer job announcements last year. And our applicant numbers have gone up significantly. Again, when you look at that, that is also can be misleading. It depends on the types of positions we're posting. We posted a few administrative support positions in the fall, which tend to have higher numbers of applicants. And the good news is we think some of the numbers have been driven up by those pay increases that happened in September. So potentially good news. We'll continue to watch that. New hires, because our turnover is going down, were fewer last year. You've seen this chart as well. What still sticks out for me is almost a quarter of our staff is what I would term to be brand new to their job, so less than 2 years of experience. But it's going in the right direction. So here you're seeing from our higher turnover trends a couple years ago that we are beginning to see that reduction, which is good news. I've talked about step distribution in the past, so I included it again this year. Again, this can look a little unusual. But because of the manner in which we made adjustments for salaries in September, we do have a large number of our staff at step 2, which is why you're seeing this huge percentage here. And here's what I consider to be the best news of all. Again, we had 18% turnover in 21 and 22. 2020 was also fairly high. Past history has us of turnover rates of 8 to 10% in really, really good years, and 10 to 12% in other years. So we're almost back to where we were. And this 13% is actually 12.7. So again, good news. And hoping that trend continues. Further good news is that our ratings for benefits and pay continue to be high. You know that we've lagged a little bit in those ratings for pay for the job and for time off. We're hoping to see at the end of 2026 some improvement in that area. For me, the key takeaways are the commission has been very conservative in the position growth over the past, well, almost the entire time I've been here, so going on 20 years. Definitely has been conservative in the past few years and really focusing on public safety and justice-related positions. Hopefully, that turnover will continue to decline and our retention will continue to trend upward, and we'll see that number of job applications improve. Further good news is our paid time off is very good, and I think better now that we've made the adjustments for 2026. We have a solid retirement plan. Our insurance benefits are well rated. And I think the number one thing for us as an organization is what people like about working for the county is that they truly have a purpose, which they know that they're contributing to their community. And I think that helps us as we recruit and retain. So overall, a good year. I appreciate everything that my office has done to help support these initiatives and appreciate the commission's support as we've moved through a lot of policy and procedure changes. Do you have any questions?
All right, public comment. Commission.
Sure. Appreciate the report, Gary, and definitely a lot of things are trending in the right direction. I know one metric that the city of Sioux Falls tracks is number of employees per population as a ratio, and I'm guessing that wouldn't be incredibly difficult to just overlay the county's numbers over that. But just with the tremendous growth we see in population, that the services we need to provide, there's some correlation between those two things. But it kind of creates a lodestar standard of, are we growing too fast or too slow? And so that might be one metric that you look to as well and see if, I think the city of Sioux Falls talks about 65 employees per 10,000 is the kind of lodestar, and trying to level at that and kind of a gut check every year when we grow. I think it'd be an interesting compare and contrast in the sense of what are our drivers of growth. A lot of some things we have that the city doesn't have is, attorneys, caseload. Mm-hmm. So as the Second Judicial Circuit grows, but they do have a police force, we have a sheriff's office. So are those growing in proportion to one another? So just throwing that out there is something that I've been exposed to recently that might give us a bearing on, are we growing too fast, too slow, or just right?
Yeah, that's a great idea. I'll try and incorporate that for next year. As I look back at some of those position authorization changes, since most of the growth has been in public safety, and we all know that we've had a significant population growth over the last 5 to 10 years, I can imagine if we splice it out, you're going to see the trend might be lagging, even in the public service and judicial related areas, and the growth for those positions per population is going to be flat or going down. But we'll try and grab some numbers and make sure to include that next year. Thank you for that.
Thank you, Carrie.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Chair, I have one question, if I would.
Please.
Hey, good morning, Carrie. You know better than anyone about the compensation study, which we passed last year. I suppose we're going to see down the road if it bears fruit or not. And what has been the response from the staff countywide regarding the compensation study? Are they happy with the changes that were made last year?
I think the feedback that I'm getting is yes, people were pleased by the changes. It certainly resulted in some adjustments and appreciation for the adjustment going into 2026 as well.
Thank you.
Great.
All right, thank you, Carrie.
All right, thank you.
Okay, legislative update. After 2 hours without a break, Meredith, you're the only thing between us and being done. No pressure.
Hello, Commissioners. Meredith Jorko, Assistant Commission Administrative Officer. So just a couple of things for today. So it is crossover day. The last 2 legislative days, so yesterday and Friday, we did see a lot of movement, specifically getting bills out of their first committee. That was still kind of happening on Thursday and Friday. And then there's been a lot of activity on the House and Senate floor Friday and yesterday to decide if these bills should survive past crossover day. A couple of deadlines I will just mention. Thursday, it is crossover day today. Thursday is the deadline for joint appropriations to move from the House of Origin, so there might still be a few bills that are being considered by that committee. And then Monday, the House of Origin must pass those joint committee on appropriation bills to the second chamber. And I know that the number of bills and the craziness slows down today on crossover day, but we'll get maybe a day or so of things being a little bit slower, and it'll pick right back up because by next Thursday, March 5th, that's the deadline to move for committee to move bills to the floor of the second chamber that they're in. And then Monday, March 9th is the deadline to pass both chambers. There will be a little bit of a break for the governor to review all of the passed bills that he hasn't yet seen. And March 30th is the day reserved for gubernatorial vetoes. So if there is something that the governor vetoes, the Senate and House will reconvene to overturn that veto if they so choose. So just a couple of deadlines there for you. One bill that I wanted to quick highlight as a little bit of a win, House Bill, well, more than a little bit of a win, House Bill 1034. So that is the bill to raise the mailing fees for license plates and decal registrations. As you know, we've been operating at kind of a deficit for that. We had to pay for mailing fees, and we were only allowed to charge $1.50 for decals and $7.50 for plates. So this bill just raised those a little bit so that those who are enjoying the convenience of having their plates and decals sent to them, so that they're adequately covering that mailing fee. So that has been signed by the governor, which is great. As Chris Lilla mentioned in his update, most of the assessment-related property tax bills have been killed. However, House Bill 1253, that Olympic average, that's still kind of the only assessment-related bill in terms of property tax that's still floating around out there. That'll be heard in its Senate committee tomorrow morning. But in terms of the other property tax bills that are still floating around, so there are a handful of different bills to provide relief for special groups, whether that's increasing income limits in existing programs or trying to introduce some other relief for specific groups. There's still a handful of those, but then in terms of the big property tax reform bills that the legislature has been kind of the top priority this year to have some kind of reform, there are still a few different bills alive, of whether that is money from the general fund, whether that's sunsetting the sales tax and using those extra dollars for relief, and then of course the governor's bill, Senate Bill 96, that did pass on the Senate floor yesterday. There was a very small amendment that just makes it so if a county was to pass the ordinance to have a county sales tax, that they couldn't put an emergency clause, because if there's an emergency clause, it's not referable to the voters. So there was just a very small amendment added so that if a county did pass that sales tax, that the voters would have the opportunity to refer that to a vote if they went through that process. So again, a handful of those that are still floating around. There is the House and Senate do still convene today. They have pretty substantial calendars of things to get through. So it will be a next week when I give my update, I'll have a better picture of what's what's alive, what still has legs, and where we kind of stand, because I know specifically the Senate has quite a few property tax bills to get through today on the floor. That's kind of all of the big updates. Of course, as always, property tax heavy, but happy to answer any questions you may have on any bills.
Public comment? Meredith, there's a lot here. I mean, yeah. I mean, when you look at just the pages and pages, and thank you for the notes and all I mean, it's such you do it well. I appreciate it. Other comments?
Mr. Chair, I'd just like to say, thank you for all the work you've been doing, Meredith, and keeping us updated on what's going on out in Pier.
Yeah, of course. Thank you.
All right. We have the opportunity for public comment. Any non-agenda item the public would like to address to the commission, you have 5 minutes. All right, moving on to commission liaison reports. Commissioner Heisey.
I suppose I'll get things started out here and just note a few items. Don't want to steal any of your thunder, but I know many of us attended the Smithfield announcement at the Canopy Hilton on the 16th, and many of us also attended the vendor's annual outlook report at the pavilion, and that was very informative, looking at the future of economic growth in Sioux Falls and the surrounding communities. Did want to mention as well that I was able to attend the Chamber of Commerce Day out in Pier. Took a bus on the 18th, and that was also very informative and great opportunity to catch up with both legislators and lobbyists and get a idea of where things are, different pieces of legislation are sitting, and the trajectory of many of them. Not to mention getting back in touch with former acquaintances and other members of the business community here in Sioux Falls. That about does it.
Commissioner Benega?
In addition to what Commissioner Heisey said, and obviously yourself, yesterday we're attending the Metro Management meeting, which was very good news. Just briefly, we're right on track for hiring non-emergency individuals. We currently have 8 people in positions, and they expect to hire the 9th one probably by the end of March, and that would put them at full staff. And the emergency program is looking at a total of 40, and I think right now, if I remember right, and I didn't write down the number unfortunately, but there were 37 or 38 people that have been on staff currently, and they expect to be full staffed by the end of May, which is awesome, because in the past we've had significant time investment and funding investment in trying to find staff for that particular function. So I'm appreciative, and I know you are also, of the management and specifically the director, Amy, to make a significant turnaround in that department.
And I'm just going to echo that, and not only being fully staffed, but the training time to be an employee of the Metro Communications 911 call center it is like, 9 months or something complete, and they're not only almost fully staffed, but fully trained staff, which is absolutely critical. So, yeah. Other liaison reports, Commissioner?
Mr. Chair, just a quick update. We had our planning commission meetings last night, so a couple things of note. Just with the joint committee with the city of Sioux Falls, we had a zoning item in the joint jurisdiction area just to the west of Sioux Falls that was deferred as staff needed more time to work on that one. So we're going to pick that one back up in May to give them some time. And then on the county side, we had a couple non-controversial consent items, and then we had one conditional use permit that was also deferred because we needed more time to build out some of those conditions. So not much substantive action last night, but working on a few items that will come back before us. That's all I have.
Mr. Chair, I should have probably brought up a couple other items that I left off in my first speech. This Thursday on the 26th, there's a Towns and Townships in-person info meeting, and that's related to the property tax appeals, which I should probably mention for any of the public that may be watching. The last day to appeal your valuation is March 12th. The local boards, whether it be township or the municipality, will meet the week of March 16th. And I believe we meet as a commission body early April. Those dates I don't believe have been set quite yet, but it's being worked on. I mentioned as well that there's a fairgrounds workshop this Thursday as well at the 26th from 1 to 5 o'clock. I'm currently registered myself, and I would encourage other people to sign up as well.
Non-action commission discussion. Okay. I'm going to look for a motion for us to enter into executive session immediately following our commission meeting for the purpose of South Dakota Codified Law 125.2, 134, and 6.
So move.
Second.
Motion is second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. We will go into exec session.